Hey guys. Okay, so I know last time I left off at the end of my pre-rehab story, which I don't remember where I ended, but I know that was where it was. Okay, so going into rehab, I first want to put out there and preface that I don't say any of this to scare anyone. I don't say any of this to discredit rehab at all. And I am going to go from the angle that, like, what my feelings were through the entire thing and what I felt as I was going through it. Not what happened in rehab, sort of thing. Because I would never discredit something that is this big in anyone's life, much less my own, especially when I know that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for me going to that place. So, first of all, I want to say I still talk with the director of the rehab I went to. Him and I are still in, we still talk, we still chat, a few times a month, and he'll check in with me, and so I went to a rehab it was 3 hours from where I lived at the time, and I remember the morning of, there's a couple pictures of my mom and I, and neither of us could stop crying because this is a tough thing. We knew, I didn't know fully that it was as long as it was, but they knew it was a year-long program. So the actual program is 12 to 15 months. Some students stay in it longer, such as myself, and others get out at a year. So it just all depends on your progress in the program. So my first day there was terrifying. I remember how sad and how broken you feel walking through the doors. But immediately, as soon as you walk through the doors, you feel this, it's almost like this spiritual hug. It's such a special place, and it's a house. It was a house. I went to a house. So, there was a beautiful dorm where we would all stay. There were always usually about 10 to 12 girls in the program at a time, and you lived in this house. Everybody had designated areas to clean. We all slept in the same dorm. But the way this program was laid out was which it has to be when you live with a bunch of people who, have done and gone through the things that we had. And there were lots and lots of rules, all there for specific, perfect purposes. But I remember going in there and being like, what the heck did I do? Because, yes, it was a mutual decision between my parents and I. I didn't know where they were going to send me or how they were going to do it. But I was so broken. I was so broken walking through those doors. I just remember. And yeah, I cried when my family left, yeah. But I was so numb. I knew I was going to miss them, but at the same time, I literally hated every human, but none more than myself. So I knew I was gonna miss them, but I had no idea it was going to be as difficult as it was. And you know, I can honestly say it was the absolute hardest full year of my entire life, because I had to overcome a lot of feelings, a lot of habits, addictions, mentalities, thoughts, you know, strongholds. And I didn't think I could do it. I felt like I was too far gone. You know, if anything was going to save me, it would be a place, a rehab. But it didn't make me want to be there. So when you go, you have a watchman for, this is not for every rehab. Okay, this was more of a home rehab because it was residential. So this is not every rehab. But this one that I went to is very structured in a way that was kind of militaristic. Lots of rules, picky. Like your sleeves had to be in order, your beds had to be able to bounce a quarter off of it. You know, and if not, you'd get disciplined. You know, everything had to be in that structure, because for people like me, we've got really hard heads, and it's next to impossible to break through that. So you get assigned, as soon as you get there, you get assigned a watchman who basically, for at least the first 30 days, you literally have to be glued to them. Nobody was allowed to touch ever. There was no touching. You could get in really big trouble for that. You could not be, and this was for anyone the entire time we were there, you could never be alone in a room with a staff member, and you could never be alone in the room by yourself. So no matter how long, no matter if you had been there for 2 days, 2 months, or 2 years, you could never, ever be in a room alone. Because a lot of the girls that go through this program, by the way, mine was an only girls program, obviously. They have only men, they have adults, mixed, whatever. But mine was female minors. So anyways, gosh, lost my train of thought there. But I remember the first week I had, mind you, I went into this covered in cuts all over my body. I was miserable. It was extremely painful to take showers, to sleep, like, and all of this just made you want to do it more because you were already at the bottom of the bottom up here. And physically, physically you were too. And I was, when I got there, I got a body check. They had to check all your clothes, examine all your clothes, shake them all out, make sure you don't have anything on you. They had to do a body check to check your body just to see what they were working with, and to kind of see the beginning photos or whatever. They didn't take photos, but it's like, like when you work out, you have people track their progress. So you have to know where someone's at before, they start the program. So all of this was in about my first week. So for me personally, I got body checks every single night because obviously there were no knives out, there were no razors out. I mean, everything was watched. Everything was watched and taken account for. So, you know, I had no idea who I was living with as far as the other girls, because a lot of girls get out of the program after a year and they go straight back to what they went there for. And it's sad. It's sad because it's like, why would you spend so much time and effort putting into yourself and your recovery and money and not make the most of it? And I don't understand it, but have I messed up? Yeah. We're human. We mess up, but I've never relapsed, and I never will. You know, that's not something that I ever could imagine doing again, because I know what it felt like to be in that seriously deep ditch. And when I think about it now, it's, yeah, I have reminders every single day. Scars. I have reminders. I look at them every single day, you know, and I remind myself, that's where you came from. That's where you came from. And, you know, it's like you hear that people say, and whoever's watching, I don't know if you've ever had problems with drugs or alcohol or whatever, but, you know, you hear people say all the time that there's always kind of like that little voice in the back of your head that since you've been through it, it kind of becomes something that is a thought. And that thought, as you recover, starts to get less and less and less loud. It gets quieter. It's still there, but it gets quieter, which is good, but hard. And you have to push through that initial, however long it takes for you to get out of that initial period of, this is impossible. Because trust me, I went through it too. When I got in there, I knew they were gonna search me, but before we even left my actual hometown, I remember hiding in the bathroom and taking apart razors. And I had even taken one of the razor blades, and this is not something I'm proud of at all. One of the razor blades and sticking it in the sole of my shoe and lodging it into that, so that when they shook out my shoes and stuck their hand in my shoes to make sure I didn't have anything with me, they would never find it. And they never found it. But I do remember that first 2, 3, 4 months was rough. I didn't get it. Like, yes, I volunteered to agree to go to a place because I ultimately didn't want to die. But it didn't click that I was there for the sole purpose of knowing recovery is real. And recovery is real, and it's something I'm chasing. And that was never something that I ever could realize for quite a few months. So, I mean, like I said, I kept that razor in my shoe for a long time, and I used it. And even though I got body checks every night, I would do it under a bra or panty line so that, and pray they didn't see, you know? And I remember having that deep pit in my stomach, knowing they were searching my stuff and that I'd get a body check, and who knows, maybe they'd see it, maybe they wouldn't. But ultimately, the price to pay for that is staying there longer. I don't know why I thought I could do something like that and not punished, but reap the benefits from it or whatever. You know, and it's true, I did. I ended up staying there longer. But in addition to that, I remember I wasn't allowed to flush my own toilet because you can learn to vomit silently. And, you know, if you're doing that in the bathroom stalls, obviously you just can't be doing that. So, I mean, I always had somebody flush my toilets for months and months and months. And that's something that I did. I went through that for probably 6 to 8 months of my 15 before I was at the place where I was okay. I was growing. I was recovering. Because I knew if I didn't, there was no way I was ever going to get out. And rehab is never going to be a fun place. Ever. No matter where you go. It's beneficial, absolutely. Mine was very faith-based. Very faith-based. You know, I grew up in a Christian home, but, you know, I always kind of felt like it was pressured onto me. Naturally. You'll hear a lot of people who grew up in Christian homes say that, and a lot of them are now, not that there's anything wrong with this, but because I have a different belief now, still faith-based, but I mean, a lot of people who are so pressured to have Christianity and to be a Christian and to be a good person and to go to church and blah, blah, blah. A lot of people who have that are never, when they grow up, I mean, a lot of kids, you know, they don't want that anymore because they felt so pressured into it. But rehab was really the place where I realized that literally I could never do this on my own. I didn't know any of the girls there. Why would I? You know, I didn't know the directors. I didn't know the staff. I didn't know anyone. You know, and that's hard. Being thrown into a completely new city alone. And I knew I was alone. But I knew that some of the more senior students in the program, they had something that I didn't. And they had that spark of hope. They had that spark of excitement because they knew Jesus. And they had been there long enough to get to that point where they wanted that. They wanted safety. They wanted recovery. They wanted a new life. And that's a really, really hard place to get to. Extremely difficult. But my first week, I kept filling out meal refusals, which did not do me any favors either, because the more meal refusals you fill out, which is basically if you don't at least eat half of your meal, that they serve you, you have to fill out a meal refusal. Because it's not like there's so many people they can't keep track. There's only 10 or 12 of us at a time, depending on who makes it. But I did that for about a week. Ended up getting disciplined for it. You know, there was consequences to every single action, positive and negative. And that's the way it's going to be in rehab. So just remember that. I don't know if any of you have any of these struggles or strongholds. I don't know. But we all have something. We all have something that we struggle with, that we have to work on, that we know is not benefiting us. And we have to address it, because if you don't address it, it's going to ruin your life. It's going to ruin your life. And I had absolutely no hope I was going to make it. None. I had no hope that I was going to make it. But here I am. Here I am, and I'm thankful, and I'm blessed. And I could definitely say, this is how I became a solid Christian, and this is how I came to know Jesus, because there's no way I would be here if it wasn't for him. And that's my personal belief. Nobody has to take that, and that's not the only way to recover, but I'll tell you what, I've met lots of recovered people who aren't Christians, but there's something that they're still missing. And that was what filled that void for me. Because I remember I cried myself to sleep every single night for a very, very, very long time in rehab, because it's not that I was miserable, but my soul was miserable. I was safe, I was protected, I was, eating, I was whatever, I was fine circumstantially, but my soul was so lost and broken and discontent, and I missed my family, even though before I even went, you would have thought I hated them, but I didn't. But I missed them, man. That was one of the hardest parts, and it became harder and harder because I could send as much mail as I wanted. And then after the first 30 days, I'd get a phone call starting at, I think, 15 minutes. And you could build up, the more progress you made in the program, you could build up these privileges. And, I could get a phone call once a week with them. I could call any part of my direct, immediate family. You had no contact with anyone else. So I was literally plucked out of school one day, and nobody knew where I went. Because, I couldn't imagine how hard that would be for my parents to have to explain that to everybody. And I don't know how they did it. I never asked. But every letter that people wrote me, if you're watching this and you tried to reach out to me or help me or, write to me or whatever, I am so grateful for that. But I never saw it because I wasn't allowed to have anything outside of my immediate family. And never saw it after. So, but I am thankful for all the prayers and thoughts and love that people sent my way when I was going through all that. And then, you know, the discipline that you got ultimately determined if you would get visits, phone calls, mail privileges, you know, and I remember there were visits once a month for, can't remember for how long, but it was just an hour or two. And that was hard because the deeper you got into your program, the more you recovered, the more kind of love came back into your heart, back into your soul. You started to become warm again. And if you've ever recovered from anything, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, if not, you might be like, this chick's crazy. But that was the hardest part because I miss my family. Man, I miss my family. And I remember, especially my two little brothers, I miss my parents a lot, but, you know, before, if you've watched my other videos, you know kind of what the two younger boys, my little brothers, I felt like it was us three sticking together through all of that, and boy, I miss them. But I had tons of pictures I'd keep in my Bible. I'd stick them in my Bible. And that's honestly where my art really, really blossomed. I did so much art in the program. I have some wicked cool art. I've been an artist forever. I mean, I've been doing it since I was little, like really little, but that was kind of like my groove. When I was in there, it was medicinal. It was, you know, how I kind of meditated, how I spent time with God, and I loved it. I loved it. And honestly, looking back now, and I still keep in contact with some of the other graduates who are doing well. But I was talking to someone the other day, and we were like, you know, as hard as it was to be in rehab, it was so incredible. I remember when I hit 6 months and I kind of got past, I had a moment in the program, it was about 5 or 6 months in, that little razor that I snuck in, I was in the shower. I think I put it in my hair or something as I went into the shower, and I remember sobbing in the shower, and that's something that you heard a lot. People sobbed in the shower all the time. And I put it in the drain. Never saw it again. Hoped and prayed nobody would clean out the drain and find it, because that would definitely, at 6 months into the program, that would definitely put me back. And that was kind of the moment that it clicked, and I was like, I have to stop playing games. This is not happening. This is taking me way too long. I don't want to be here forever, you know, and I miss my family. I have goals that I'm creating. I don't know what I want to do with my life now that I think I'll have one, but I gotta stop. And that is when I started to grow. That is when I started to succeed and learn and grow and love again and heal. Oh my goodness, the healing that went on in that house is amazing. The staff is incredible, so supportive. You might not like them at first with all the discipline, but once you get your act together, they become your best friends and biggest cheerleaders, and the directors as well. Oh my goodness. I could never say thank you enough to them, ever. It's incredible. They are such a blessing to me and my family for sure. I just love them. But I think that's about where I'm gonna wrap up. I know this one wasn't as intense as my last videos, but if you don't know the background to my story, go back on my YouTube channel. I have part 1 and 2 of my pre-rehab story. And I'll continue this. Most of my videos won't be this long as I continue, because you guys will get to know me, and then we can kind of go from there. And I just want to put all my thoughts, all my feelings, all my advice onto one place, onto this YouTube channel, because I tried to start a blog a while ago and I don't have time or effort to sit down and type. I hate it. So I'd rather just talk to you guys. So, if anybody ever has any questions or needs help, I'm here. I am here. So, I hope you guys have an incredibly blessed day. And if you're in the process of recovery or know somebody that is, be supportive, show your love, let them heal, and you have to leave them alone. You have to let them do it themselves. Don't try to push them in that subject. Keep things light. Try to help them, but ultimately, if they don't want it, they're never going to recover. Ever. Because nobody can make you do anything but yourself. And that's really, really, really true in every aspect of life. So, hope you guys have an incredibly blessed day, and I'll see you next time.